My aunt Ada told me this story when I was young. She swore it was true, and I believe her. It's a story that still sends chills down my spine whenever I think about it. It started many years ago, in our quiet little village. Life was simple back then, people knew everyone else, and strangers were rare. That's why, when Ifeanyi appeared one market day, everyone noticed him. He was tall, dark, and strikingly handsome. His smile was sharp and charming, and he spoke with a voice so smooth it could calm a storm. The women couldn't stop whispering about him. Who is he? Where did he come from? But no one had answers. Ifeanyi seemed harmless at first. He was polite and well-mannered, always greeting elders with respect. He rented a small hut near the stream and kept to himself most of the time. The only odd thing was that no one ever saw him eat or drink. He came to the market often, but he never bought food. Instead, he'd stand by the stalls, watching people with that same strange smile. The first woman to go missing was Ngozi, the baker's daughter. Ngozi was shy and quiet, not the kind of girl to attract attention. But one day, people saw her talking to Ifeanyi by the stream. They said she looked different, almost like she was in a trance. A few days later, Ngozi was gone. Her parents searched everywhere, calling out her name in the forest and by the riverbanks, but there was no trace of her. At first, people thought she might have run away, but her best friend, Chika, said something that changed everything. I saw her last night, Chika whispered to a group of villagers. She was walking toward Ifeanyi's hut. The second disappearance happened 2 weeks later. Amoka, the seamstress, was bold and confident. She wasn't afraid of anyone or anything. When people started whispering about Ifeanyi, she laughed it off. You people are always scared of what you don't understand, she said. Amoka started spending time with Ifeanyi, and she didn't try to hide it. She told her friends he was kind and sweet. But one night, she didn't come home. Her mother went to Ifeanyi's hut, demanding answers, but it was empty. Amoka was never seen again. By the time the third woman went missing, the village was in chaos. Everyone was talking about Ifeanyi. The elders summoned him to the square. He arrived with that same unsettling smile, calm as ever. I don't know anything about these women, he said. I'm just a traveler passing through. The elders didn't believe him, but they had no proof. They warned him to stay away from the women in the village, and he agreed. But something about the way he smiled as he walked away made everyone uneasy. Then came the night Chioma saw him for what he really was. Chioma was a young girl, barely 18. She had gone to visit her aunt in the next village and was walking home late at night. It was raining heavily, and the forest path was dark and slippery. As she passed under a large tree, she saw him. Ifeanyi was standing there, drenched but still smiling. His clothes were torn, and his eyes. Chioma said his eyes didn't look human. They glowed faintly, like the eyes of an animal. Chioma, he said softly, his voice smooth and sweet. Come closer. Chioma froze. She wanted to run, but her legs wouldn't move. Then, right before her eyes, Ifeanyi began to change. His body twisted unnaturally, his arms and legs shrinking. His skin turned dark and scaly, and his face stretched into a long, pointed snout. In seconds, he wasn't a man anymore. He was a giant snake, its body coiled and its eyes fixed on her. Chioma screamed and dropped her basket. Somehow, her legs finally obeyed her, and she ran as fast as she could, slipping and stumbling through the forest. She didn't stop until she reached the village square, where she collapsed, gasping for air. He's not a man, she cried. He's a snake. Ifeanyi is a snake. The villagers didn't waste time. Men grabbed machetes and torches and headed for Ifeanyi's hut. When they got there, the door was wide open, but the hut was empty. The floor was covered in strange scales, and a foul smell lingered in the air. The elders called for a dibia, traditional healer, from a nearby town. When the dibia arrived, he walked through the village, chanting and sprinkling herbs. He told the villagers that Ifeanyi wasn't human. He is an ogbanj, the dibia said, his voice low and serious. A spirit in disguise. He lures women and takes their lives to feed his dark power. The Dibia performed rituals to cleanse the village and placed charms around the borders to keep Ifeanyi from returning. For weeks, no one saw or heard from him. Life slowly went back to normal, but the fear never truly left. Some say Ifeanyi still roams the forest, looking for his next victim. Others believe he moved on to another village, starting his deadly cycle again. But one thing is certain, if you ever meet a man who seems too perfect, beware. And if you hear a soft, sweet voice calling your name in the dark, don't stop to look. Just run.